I like to do what I can to preserve what few people tend to think about today, ancient memory. I like to remind people what all humans once had, getting them to switch channels, flick over if you like to an earlier way of thinking about culture and ancient life. It's possible to realign ourselves with the primitive or prehistoric way of thinking, because there's a big connection between primitive thinking and my own personal culture. It's a mindset, and we shouldn't for one moment assume that prehistoric tribal folk or our ancestors would think in the same way that we do today. It's a very different psychology if we start to think more deeply about it, one we still carry around inside us. And I'm only able to do this because I hail from an ancient gypsy line, so I have prehistory in my soul. My line stretches back to the Indian and Old Persian deserts, and somehow, I don't know how, I seem to have retained a memory that's ancient. It all adds up to knowledge and experience about ancient ways of thinking, which I can pass on to others, and which works. In all my video talks, in my music, and in my workshops, I draw from elements in my own ancient culture to educate folk, helping them to return to what I call primary organic thinking. Engaging in this will reconnect us with the things that matter, the stars and our ancestors, natural world values, earlier ways of living which many of us can feel connected to. And even earlier prehistoric nomadic ways of relating to Earth, which is the original way of living a mortal life here on Earth. Because music, dance and the arts are very much in my family line and culture, I sometimes like to introduce these into my workshops. Music and dance brings a sense of fulfillment, passion and enjoyment. Ancient folk use song and dance to express the spirit of the ancient natural world. And through music and dance we can also express the mysterious ancient otherworld, a world we need so much education on today, a world we seriously need in our lives today, along with the beings who occupy the ancient otherworld. Without these things in our lives, we are spiritually and culturally starved, always searching for that something, even though we hardly know what it is. This leads us to develop fantasies about the way we think life is, meaning we are a desperate people in these times. When we're minus the origin of life on a day-to-day level, our imagination so easily loses its original flavour. This means it becomes flimsy, shallow and unbelievable, a container for all kinds of things like chaos and confusion, causing levels of poor mental health to flourish. We were distinctly closer to the original, to normal mental health and to natural community when we shared the ancient hearth. Sadly, nomadic life as it used to be in the Western world has diminished now. And our modern civilized way of thinking clearly affects just about everything we do in detrimental ways. Aloneness is a product of this. We simply have to change the way we think if we're to survive mentally, emotionally and spiritually. We need now to return our attention, as a matter of urgency, to all those things that always mattered to all ancient people everywhere, these things which help keep us safe and sound. This is a way of thinking that didn't harm the earth. It's a way of thinking that's animistic, animal-like, with a strong sense of togetherness. A way of thinking that keeps us from messing about with inappropriately glam ideas of culture, like this. It's a way of thinking that will help us understand why we're encouraged to do this. Consumerism within the New Age industry will always take its toll. And it's the New Age industry I'm concerned with, not the individual alone, although it's clearly time for individuals to recognise where we're all going with this and start to gain just a little responsibility. Because cultural appropriation is rocketing now in our time, and we now cannot even recognise it. We're so culturally starved with such a dire need to belong, and of course it's most understandable with the way we are today. We're likely to turn to anything that connects us with something beyond what this society is busy feeding us with. Consequently, at bottom, we've lost our roots, along with our sense of purpose here on earth, meaning our existence and self-worth become distinctly questionable. So we have no choice but to invent a past, attaching traditions, beliefs and ideas to it, the existence of which are distinctly questionable. Do we really believe people of the past might have greeted the sun in this fashion? We don't really think enough about this when the majority of us can only guess what people of the past got up to. For very little is based on a more ancient tribal way of life, a more original way. What is fashionable and what is popular will always have the edge, according to the age we're living in. People will either love me or hate me for what I say, and I may appear to have something of a relaxed attitude to what I do, but the reality is quite different. For I'm invariably a lone voice in the dark, a small seed that grows up through the cracks against all the odds. Without my Romani family around me, it is a somewhat lonely life, but I'd rather keep a realistic, ancient and psychological approach to what I do rather than pretend. And if that means I'm alone, then so be it. I'll continue to see the more magical side of how life is, in the primary organic way, in the way of my ancestors. I'll continue to see the past in that same ancient way, that it is not without its mistakes, its regrets, its mental and emotional turmoil.
Okay, come on, all together. 1, 2, 3.
And I'll continue to uphold what I believe to be true in all my workshops. And I'll draw attention to the natural world values contained within the precious seasons. For the seasons are our true teachers, our true role models. So I don't believe I could do any of this if I hadn't come from an ancient family line. For as the last Romani Gypsy medicine man here in the West, can I do anything else?